Hello, and welcome to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. Well, hey, we'd like to welcome all to Mornings with Joel, our CRE podcast. And this morning we have a very special guest, Dennis Pemberton, one of my homies from back in the day, old stomping ground. Come to find out, buddy as well. Didn't know he ran in those circles of where I grew up. So very happy to have you, Dennis.
Actually, thank you. Happy to be here
from Belize. So we're happy to hear that, and very excited to have you as well. What's been happening, man? Life's been treating you well? You doing all right?
Yes, life has been going very well. These are, as you know, interesting times. We are trying to adapt and adjust to everything that the world is throwing at us. But fortunately, things have been going very well. And as you mentioned, I'm actually currently in Belize. This is a family vacation that we were fortunate and happy to be able to pulled off this week. So we just arrived last night, so I haven't had a chance to really do much, but it's nice to have a change of scenery. And it's actually my first vacation here in 18 months or so. So this is actually quite nice, but overall things are good.
All right. Fantastic. Well, I know you've done a lot in the commercial real estate game over the years. We're really excited to see your progress and everything else. But the question is always, how did you get started? I mean, were you born with a silver spoon in your mouth? Did your daddy give you a ton of real estate to play with and, that type thing? Or how did this all get started for you and become a way of life for you?
Absolutely. So, no silver spoon, but I can say that my father was involved in real estate. So we, in a very, very small scale, actually in New York, in Harlem, and he owned a business. He had a warehouse in Harlem, and then just over the years started investing in small properties, single family homes, and then actually some brownstones early on before that was a thing. So he would buy exactly. So he would buy dilapidated brownstones in Harlem for $30,000 and get the squatters out and then sell them for $50,000 and, think he was doing something. So in retrospect, he had a buy and hold strategy. It would have been a much better, I perhaps my children would have had a silver spoon, but we ended up, as he says, he was able to educate his children, and it did give my sister and myself exposure to the real estate business. So most of many of my memories, I should say, with my father was driving around in the backseat of his car, going around collecting rents or looking at properties and things like that. He actually, one of the funnier stories is he owned a building that he leased to a church. So he would always, every Sunday afternoon, we would drive out to the church to get them right after the collection plate was passed, because that's when we knew they had money. So that was my first introduction to real estate. And then I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. Unfortunately, Morehouse at the time had a real estate concentration within the business department. So I was a professor by the name of Alan, or an individual by the name of Alan Panado, who came to Morehouse and created this program with the support of some of the larger institutional investment companies. He was a New York Life executive, was a senior guy in their real estate group, retired, and then came to Morehouse. And, we had maybe 12 or 13 guys who were concentrating in real estate when I was there, and had access to a lot of institutional investment firms that were interested in trying to increase minorities, similar to REIT in the
heard
industry.
That story before.
So, yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's come full circle.
Exactly, which it's still needed, very, very much needed. Absolutely. But Equitable, New York Life, Prudential, firms like that were all, Sal Partners were all supportive. So I ended up getting my first institutional real estate job with the Prudential, and I worked in the mortgage capital group, analyzing commercial mortgages. And then I worked during my senior year. I guess I had a summer internship before my senior year with them, and then worked during my senior year with them. And I ended up being one of the few people. This was in the late 80s. So I was one of the few people who knew how to use Lotus 123 at the time, which was sort of a predecessor to Excel. Yeah. And I created this very, very basic problem loan database, and I was the only one who knew how to use it. So they kept me on during my senior year. So that gave me a great opportunity to work, then get some experience. And then when I graduated, I ended up working for Cigna, the insurance company, and their real estate investment group as a real estate asset manager. And because I had worked the prior full year, I had some practical experience. And so they actually brought me in as an associate versus an analyst. And that was a great opportunity to get great exposure. So I worked at Cigna for about 3 years. And then I went on to, as a multifamily asset manager, managing a national portfolio. And then I went on to business school, came out of business school and went to work for a company called CRE Capital Group, which is a large, it was ultimately acquired by GE Capital and sort of disbanded, but it was a large REIT holding company. And we were the largest shareholders of Archstone Properties, Prologis Properties, Car America, the office building REIT, Storage USA, and there were about 12 companies under the Security Capital Group umbrella. So worked there for a number of years, and then we had started a company called Homestead Studio Suites, which was an extended stay hotel company. Mm-hmm. I moved over to Homestead, and that brought me to Atlanta. And then Homestead was ultimately sold, and I went to work, and then I ended up starting my own firm. So in 2001, with just an idea of going out and let's try to syndicate 1 or 2 deals a year. I was going to, I was working out of my basement, was going to do smaller deals and just try to, make a living. And we ended up getting some good traction and ended up establishing some relationships with some wealthy families in Georgia who supported me in some of my early investments. And then, fast forward to today, we have I actually recently merged my firm with a firm called the Dawson Company, which is a second generation African American real estate development firm that was founded in Atlanta. Harold Dawson Sr. was a mentor of mine, and he passed away about 7 or 8 years ago. And his son Harold Jr., who now runs the company with me, is a dear friend and incredible real estate professional. So we've merged his development platform and my acquisition platform, and are trying to do positive things.
All right, fantastic. I was actually going to ask Kwame, didn't you go to Morehouse also? If I'm not mistaken. I thought you went to one of those schools.
I went to Brown. I was at Brown University.
Oh, okay.
But I'm from Georgia.
Maybe that's where I got the lines mixed up. Yeah,
you got it all mixed up. Yeah, I left and went to the Northeast, and then came, and then I stayed.
Yes, and I pretty much did the opposite. Yeah, because I was born in the Northeast, and then I went down to Atlanta and stayed there for a while.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, exciting. Very, very exciting. So that kind of gave you your foray. And I guess one of the things that you talked about was being able to transition over to using those relationships basically to create your own firm and do things like that. It was kind of interesting what you were mentioning about Lotus 123. At the time, I was at U.S. Trust at 45 Wall Street, and I had designed this program called Data Ease. And it was a database management system for mortgage-backed securities. I was the only guy that knew how to run it. Right?
Exactly.
So it was a very, very similar thing, And wow, small world as it comes down to that. So
that's funny.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So fast forward, as things progress for you, I know you've done some deals in the past, and I know when we had spoke last, you were trying to close some things out. And I noticed one thing, it seems like all the deals that you generally focus on are ideally north of about 300 units. Is there a reason for that? I mean, I know the reason, but what would you say to our listeners as to what
right.
for that?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is it is just as hard to do a 40 unit deal as it is to do a 300 unit deal. And if you're able to, it's just the efficiencies of doing larger transactions. And also, we have evolved to dealing primarily with institutional investors, and they are, they're seeking to get larger chunks of capital out the door. So we're, so we tend to focus on, deals get through. We'll go down to 240, 250, but generally speaking, try to be north of 300 and try to be north of, sort of 35 or $40 million of asset value.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. What would you say is probably too big of a size, or do you have any cap on that as to where you think it might be a little bit?
That's a good question. There's no hard and fast rules, but I do get concerned about very, very large single assets. If you have a multi-family asset with 800 units or so, that tends to be a little scary just from a management standpoint and a concentration standpoint. But our ideal transaction is a portfolio transaction where we can buy multiple properties, multiple plus or minus 300 unit properties in one transaction. That's what we like. But so we evaluate every deal on its own merits, but so no hard and fast rules. But it gets very, very tricky. It has to be a very unique deal. If it's, I guess over 500 or 600 units, that's when we start saying, okay, let's really understand our risk and our exposure and how we're going to manage this asset.
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. So as regards the timing in the marketplace right now, what are you really seeing? I mean, obviously there's a lot of compression of cap rates and everything else, but where do you see the opportunities? Are you more opportunistic, value add, core?
Right.
I mean, where would you say the space is?
So we've always been value add oriented. That's been our focus since we started the firm, and or general from an acquisition standpoint, we're value added. But then, as I mentioned, we've recently merged with the Dawson Company, and we are doing a lot of development. We had built up a nice acquisition portfolio or, stabilized assets, and then actually sold out most of our portfolio in 2015, 2016, which in retrospect was much too soon. Left a lot of dollars on the table, and really wish we had held on. And actually one of our assets that we had sold in the 2015, 2016 timeframe, I saw it just traded. Person we sold it to just sold it at significant premium over what we sold it for. So that hurt my feelings a bit. But we are we're still trying to find value added acquisitions. We are very focused on and have always been focused on the workforce housing sector. So unfortunately, the strategy that at a point in time, it was an uphill battle trying to convince people to focus on secondary and tertiary markets in the high growth Southeast, workforce housing oriented, and value added. That's been our strategy for literally the last 20 years. And unfortunately, now everyone has discovered it. And I only wish I had been able to put out more dollars to that strategy. But we're still looking for opportunities, but there's a lot of capital chasing deals. As you said, there's significant cap rate compression. So the way we are, still looking at deals, but have not closed an acquisition here in the last over 12 months, just because it's actually over 18 months, just because it's been difficult to try to get deals done in this environment, and it's even more frothy right now. But we are developing, and the good news is we're developing property that we're able to sort of sell into this market. So we're developing assets, stabilizing them, and then hoping to be able to sell some assets here in the coming weeks. We had a transaction, a sale close at the end of the year, and have a couple of other things that'll likely close this year. So that's the way and that was the benefit of actually the combination of my firm with the Dawson Company, is that we have the acquisition capability and the development capability, and that provides us with the opportunity to be able to transact in whatever the market brings us. Yeah,
very good point. So I get it. And I was wondering about that, because if you merge with a developer and you're not doing development deals, you're just doing acquisitions, I would wonder about that, because obviously a developer generally wants to always build.
No, absolutely.
That's where his heart is. Yeah. And he's going to focus on that. And Dawson's been building forever. So
no, forever. Exactly. Very, 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 very strong capabilities there. So it's been great. And, but on the development side, one of the issues we're dealing with is just the cost of raw materials or materials. Lumber is high. We have a project that's under construction now. We're having trouble getting appliances because I guess the chip manufacturer that makes the chips for appliances is bad. I guess it's in Taiwan, sort of one major one in the world, and they are backed up. So we're having trouble getting appliances, and the cost of everything is going up, and then labor is still an issue. So it pretty much everything's hard. We're making it work.
Yeah. Well, no, good point. It's always going to be tough. Let me ask this: how do you manage your time? And the reason why I mention that is because I was on a business call the other day, and one of the things that came up in that discussion was about time management for executives. You got all these deals to close, you got all these different transactions you're trying to manage, you're trying to understand, you got clients you're trying to deal with, money investors you're trying to deal with. How do you find the best way to manage your time as you juggle all these different things?
That's a great question, and I'm still trying to refine it. I'm not perfect at it. That's probably one of the areas where a personal improvement area where I absolutely could do better. But by necessity, I make it work. But I probably work. I work a lot, and perhaps not as efficiently as I could. But the bottom line is you should really rely on lists and to-do lists and task lists and make sure you kind of prioritize and work through them on a daily basis. And, so to try to start my day with making a list of what I absolutely need to accomplish and then what I would like to accomplish. And I end up working a lot in the evenings, because the benefit of working in the evenings is you don't have, phone calls or situations popping up that require, your immediate attention. That's one of the biggest challenges is, sort of laying out, okay, this is my day, this is what I want to accomplish. And then you have, 3 or 4 fire drills over the course of the day that pull you away to focus on either is this existing issues that just require your attention to make some decisions because perhaps there's a problem, or new opportunities that come across your desk that perhaps may need a quick look, and then being able to prioritize and reshift and get things done. But then also we're fortunate that we have a great team. And then being able to divert some things to other team members if I need to stay focused, but we don't want to miss the opportunity to need to solve a problem. And generally speaking, someone else can jump in and resolve the issue.
Yeah, very good point. So it is tough. It's a work in progress. Even for myself, it's always something. And with this COVID situation, I know for myself, I found myself working almost 7 days a week.
Exactly.
Because you're at your house most of the time. And so it's like, let me go deal with this. Let me deal with that. I got to get back to this person, so it could be very challenging, but
exactly. Yeah. So between, like you said, working 7 days a week, obviously what technology has done has made everyone accessible all the time. Yeah. And then also not having a commute. And also I wasn't traveling. So, normally I could use travel time, time on airplanes just to try to regroup and collect my thoughts, or, or commuting time in the car as a chance to either, catch up on some personal calls or just try to get my head clear. But now it was just always on, like you said, 7 days a week, many hours a day. Like I said, I did manage to sneak away this week. I'm going to try to only work 25% of the time. Unfortunately, I won't be able to completely check out, but I am going to enjoy my family and try to use this to recharge my batteries.
Yeah. Well, do what you got to do, man, because it's certainly important. You got to do that. So absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you about, I know you had a foray in the hospitality space, and I never really understood why you got into hospitality. Obviously I know you as a multifamily guy, even though you were involved in that deal in Sea Island, I believe it was down there.
Right. Jekyll Island. Right.
Jekyll
exactly.
Island. Yeah.
That's where I'm from. I'm from Brunswick.
Oh, really?
Same time. So you were with Barry Sternlick and Starwood. You were involved with that deal?
No, we were. We partnered with Trammell Crow, and we had actually 17 acres of Jekyll Island under control, and we're going to do a big mixed use development. This was right before the world fell apart in 08 and 09. So.
Oh wow.
But we, but it was very, I spent a lot of time down there. Was very active and was very excited about the potential of that area in Jekyll Island, and still am, but haven't been down there lately. But I guess theoretically, I still have an economic interest in some stuff down there. As I mentioned, when I was with Security Capital Group, I was with Homestead, one of our subsidiary companies, and it was I guess VP of Strategic Planning for Homestead. So that gave me my introduction to the hospitality space, and I was always intrigued by it. But we actually bought a piece of land in Atlanta near the airport on Camp Creek Parkway, across from Camp Creek Marketplace. And we initially were planned on doing multifamily there. We were going to develop multifamily, and then decided that site was probably better suited for hotels. So we ended up co-developing with another firm, 2 hotels there, Courtyard and a Hampton Inn, and ended up doing well with those projects. So we that sort of got me back into the hotel space, and then we bought a deal in Augusta, Georgia, and then we had the large hotel, and it was going to be condos as well project we were planning on Jekyll Island. So we were very active in that space. Was going to have that be kind of an additional pillar of the firm. but really got wind knocked out of my sails after 08 and 09, and had a bunch of capital deployed in that space that didn't necessarily fare well for us, and a couple of big development projects that ended up not coming to fruition, through that time period. So that's when I went back to, and fortunately, during that downturn, our multifamily assets ended up performing very well. So I said, well, let me stick to my core here,
bread and butter.
Let me stick to my bread and butter, do the main thing. But I still am actually very, very much like the hotel sector, and never say never. So, I still fortunately still get, calls about opportunities and deals that come across my desk. So, if who knows?
Yeah. But what do you think about hospitality going forward? Everything the main things that are hot right now, as you know, is obviously multifamily and industrial, but obviously hospitality has been kicked in the teeth. Does that mean that it's a buying season, or what?
It is absolutely a buying season. There's going to be some tremendous opportunities. If the world, I think, will evolve and change a bit here, and some business travel locations will probably have to sort of readjust their business models, just because I think there's some hotels that aren't going to do well going forward, and others that are going to do even better, just with the way that I think the world of work will change and the way travel will change. But there's significant pent up demand for travel, both leisure and business wise. So I think there's going to be a sort of a quick recovery, and it's going to be pretty clear which properties are going to, or will thrive long term, and which ones need to perhaps revisit their business models. But I think they're going to be tremendous opportunities. If I were much closer to the sector, I would absolutely be a buyer right now. But it's not going to. It's tough. They're going to be winners and losers. So you need to be knowledgeable and figure out which ones, which properties to go for. But it's I would love to buy hospitality. Right now, we're in partnership with someone who was really close to the markets and had a good sense of what was, where the opportunities were.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's quite interesting because, it can go up and down, but you're right. There's such opportunity right now, a lot of pent up demand. One of our partners on a transaction, they're actually acquiring hospitality in order to convert to multifamily. So they're doing that right now. So
we've looked at a couple of projects like that for a variety of reasons, haven't executed on one, but that is something that is a logical use for some, like I said, some hotels that are probably not positioned to really perform well in the future, and in markets that have a shortage of multifamily. And there's some interesting things you could do there, depending on how the hotel is set up, and the floor plans, because it's you could either do sort of moderate or affordable housing, or you could figure out how to do something more luxury, or just the sort of the pied-à-terre concept of just having people having a kind of a luxury studio in an urban market. So there are great opportunities there, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the successes that come out of this. With people doing some creative things, and there are also people trying to do that with some office buildings as well that are probably not best suited for office buildings, but trying to convert them to multifamily. And it doesn't work with all buildings, again, just because of the size of the floor plates, and make sure all units have windows and easy access and all that. But again, if you find the right building, there are going to be some opportunities in that space as well. And also sort of perhaps getting ahead of you, but I think there are going to be some tremendous opportunities for adaptive reuse of retail, and figuring out how to take some retail centers that are likely not going to make it, and converting them to other uses, and either just tearing them down and completely redeveloping them, or trying to take that space and great parking and generally great access to transportation and highway systems, et cetera, and convert that to other uses. So I've seen everything from taking malls, converting them into big sort of municipal centers with YMCA and City Hall and things like that, and other places where they've been converted to movie studios, other places where they've been converted to Amazon distribution depots, and then other places where they've done just some other creative, so I guess self-storage, so some old old Target center converted to a self-storage place with a big big parking for for companies to be able to, leave trucks and storage containers and people parking boats and RVs and all that there. Because you have the vast parking. So it's, again, that's another opportunity where I think, very, very smart people who, have really good insights will figure out how to make money in that space during, coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. You did get ahead of me because that's exactly where I was going. Read my mind.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. But you're right. I mean, those are the opportunities, and it's amazing because it's where everybody is running from is where the opportunities are.
Always the case.
Yeah,
always the case. So So when we were, and like I said, when we were starting. In kind of the value-added multifamily space, and again, our target has been secondary and tertiary markets. So we're in the Southeast. So we've done projects in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, Savannah, to Nashville before Nashville was hot. Nashville is kind of as it relates to the Southeast, kind of a core market now.
Right.
But some of the suburbs of Raleigh and Charlotte and Tallahassee and Huntsville and Alabama and Pensacola, Florida, these are markets where we were begging people to say, trust us, this is a good place to invest, and we couldn't get anyone's attention. And now all of these markets are on everyone's radar screen and are very, very hot. But it's to the point here, it's maybe when the market's hot, you want to focus on what's cold, and so that's always something you think about. So we're being very, very careful in our underwriting, very thoughtful in our underwriting, but still see opportunities in the markets that we're pursuing.
Yeah. Well, it's a delicate balance, that's for sure. Because you don't know which one of those markets is really going to pop.
Right.
So it's a challenge. You mentioned Huntsville, which is very interesting. It seems like it's positioned to be one of the hottest markets in Alabama.
Absolutely.
Total. Yeah, even more so than Birmingham. So
Huntsville is poised to be the largest city in Alabama in the next 10 years, and it is has the benefit of the Redstone Arsenal, which is a large Army installation where they do a lot of high tech Army work, controlling drones and stuff that does top secret things, and that the Redstone Arsenal has around 40,000 employees, and then you also have all of the defense companies that are tied into that. So Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all these other top secret companies that have locations and a presence there. And so actually Huntsville has the second highest number of PhDs in the country, just behind the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. So it's a very, very well educated employee base. You have also the U.S. Space Center, where so it's basically the home of U.S. rocketry. So again, a lot of smart people, a lot of high incomes, very, very high quality of life, and significant job growth. So that was a market where we did a deal there several years ago, and I could not find a U.S. investor who would invest there with me, and we ended up bringing in an international investor who they had done their own research, and they found Huntsville popped up on their radar as a market that had significant long-term upside possibilities. So so it's a shame we had to go find an international investor to do a deal sort of right here. So that is a market we're very, very bullish on, very, very strong opportunities. There's very, very strong demand, significant population and household growth, and very, very high quality jobs, and what we view as a stable economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we see the same thing. So you make a valid point here. Let me just jump in right quick. And Kwame, let's see if there was anything you wanted to add. We generally don't have all the folks with us today that generally here, but anything on your mind that
this is great. I'm glad I have your full attention. So I was interested in hearing about, you were talking about fundraising and finding investors. And you talked about institutional investors, you talked about high net worth individuals and family offices. I know for most people of color who are developers, getting to that next level of being able to attract those people and being able to retain that is still a challenge. Can you talk about kind of your journey in terms of, when was a turning point for you, or how you went about establishing, those institutional investors, those relationships with institutional investors?
Absolutely. It is it has been a 25-year plus journey, and it is not over. It is not easy, but fortunately now with 25 plus years under our belt, we do have some long-standing relationships whereas people are when we have an opportunity, we're able to go out and go to a roster of investors who we've transacted with before. And then also because we've performed for people, if it's not an opportunity for a particular investor we go to, they are willing and able to open up doors for us and say, hey, this isn't a fit for us, but you should call my buddy over here at XYZ firm. So, but that's taken a long time to get there. And we do not have a fund. We operate on a deal by deal basis, and have done that strategically. It just provides significant amount of flexibility for us. And to be honest, we ultimately end up with better economics. But it is also very, very hard because every transaction, it's like you have to start from scratch. And like I said, we're fortunate in that we do have investors we have relationships with, but it's never done until it's done. So we started, as I mentioned, I was fortunate that I established some relationships in Atlanta early on with a few families that were very supportive as well as very well connected. And one of the things I did when I was starting the firm in Atlanta is I sat on a number of sort of nonprofit boards that were very that were sort of favored by the family offices and the high net worth folks there, and then also developed some strategic relationships with some people who were very tied in, and who's kind of the good old boy network in the South. If you have, oh yeah, Dennis, he's a good guy. That simple thing said by the right person will get you in the door and open up some opportunities for you. So that's
a double-edged sword, by the way. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, it's tricky, and you got to maneuver, and you got to be careful, and you've got to there's all sorts of pitfalls and challenges to that, but it ended up getting us in the in the right flows, and then we based on my experience with. I worked for, as I said, Security Capital Group, and that was a large company. And then when that company ended up being sold, people disbanded and went to a bunch of different firms. So I have managed to maintain a lot of those relationships, and that so it's very rare at this stage for me to be introduced to an institutional firm and not at least know someone who is maybe someone I'm sort of one person removed from who is at that firm, just based on how long I've been in the industry and working at some of the larger firms. And then the final piece of it is I just one of my strong skills that I really focus on is relationship management and maintenance, and also staying in front of people when you don't have a deal, so that when you call them when you do have a deal, that's not the only reason you're calling them. It's more of a true relationship and a true connection, and not just mercenary. And that has served me well. And that is, Joel, mentioned, or the question earlier, how do you manage your time? One of the things that I often will either write down or make sure I do, every day or every week is just, reach out to someone I haven't spoken to in a while, who I may very well need to call when I, have an opportunity for them to look at, in a couple of weeks, but just, hey, just, check it in. How's it going? What's going on? What are you guys focused on? This is what we're focused on. And then, so that gives me a sense of what's important to people. And then also you hear what's going on just in the market. If you hear someone saying, hey, we just sold this multifamily portfolio, and for an X, whatever cap rate, it just gives me a sense of what's going on in the market. Or we're completely getting out of the office building sector. That's data, and that's just good information for me to have. Or we're really, really hot on Huntsville. What are you guys doing there? And I say, funny you should say that. We've got something there. So it's really trying to manage the relationship side of the business that has been helpful, for me personally on the capital raising side. And there's always more I could do there, but people like to do business with people they know, people they like, and I try to do that. But it is a challenge. As an African American firm, you don't necessarily get or you sort of period, you don't get the benefit of the doubt all the time. It's oftentimes people will have more of an orientation towards why I don't want to do this deal versus why I do want to do this deal, and you're fighting that battle. But in reality, right now, capable African American firms with some track records are actually in high demand. So we are, sort of long time coming, but for the first time, our phone is ringing with people calling saying, "Hey, what are you doing? Can we do something with you?" And that's I don't even know how to. Almost don't even know how to process that. I just stare at the phone for a while before I respond, because that just has never happened. So we're fortunate in that we have been able to do some good things over the years, and now are hopefully positioned to take advantage of the fact that firms are realizing that they have done a terrible job of diversifying their developer and sponsor partners. So, but it's hard. Really focus on establishing and managing relationships, and not just calling people when you have a deal, but just keeping in touch and keeping people apprised of what you have going on. Mm-hmm. And because also if you just call and say, "Hey, we just closed this great deal, blah blah blah," and someone will say, "Oh, well, hey, that's something we would have done." So I make a note that, okay, next time, make sure you bring that to that person. And then also don't, we have a diverse staff. So if it's strategic to have another one of our staff members to be the primary point of contact with the relationship, because we think that will get us, ahead a little bit more, we're completely open to that as well. So I don't know who's listening to this. I'm going to be, I'll just leave that there. But yeah,
you're working all the angles.
Hey, truth is the truth, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I tell people if someone wants to do business with us because one of our colleagues went to college with them, great. If they're in the same fraternity, great. It's because I'm bald, great. Because I went to Morehouse, great. If I went to Harvard, great. Whatever it is, like you said, we'll work all the angles and do what we have to do. And then we also have a another thing that people could consider is either official or unofficial advisory board. So that just gives you sort of more tentacles to have out there in the market. And that's that's harder to do than it sounds, just because you have to find someone who's going to really put in, be committed to you, put in the time, but not want to take all the ups. So it's that's a delicate balance, but we've sort of done that unofficially, where we have a number of folks who are either investors who have just taken an interest in us and who are always calling and saying, "Hey, I want you to meet this person." Mm-hmm. We have several attorneys who do that for us as well, who have done a very, very wonderful job of connecting us with potential capital sources and sourcing deals for us, and providing a needed letter of support or call to someone. We had a deal recently where we were trying to buy a large portfolio, and we asked our law firm if anyone in their firm had a relationship with the seller, and they did. So they placed a call to the seller on our behalf and said, "Hey, these guys are legit." So that overcame some of the reservations that the seller would have had about doing business with an African American firm that they were not aware of, and he was not as and not a big firm. So that's another way of working. Going to work on what you have and trying to just be scrappy and figure it out.
No, thank you so much. Thanks for the insight. I love it, because you rarely hear that, that journey and how it works. Right. I greatly appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for the question. That was a good one.
Thank you, Kwame. Yeah, that's really what this is all about. Because Dennis, I kind of mentioned it to you briefly, in the email that what we're trying to do is make sure that the next generation of minorities does not stay at 3 to 5% of the overall industry, which really makes no sense, right? I mean, there's potential for growth. And a lot of times from what I found, it's just, they just don't know. And you kind of alluded to that a minute ago. You had a seller in a situation who was probably like, "Well, I never heard of this black firm before. Right. I probably should have known of them if they were for real." So they're probably not for real. And they may, they're dragging their feet. So to have somebody legitimize that. But the point is that the more exposure we give to the industry and show that it's not just, H.J. Russell or Dawson, right, that are out here doing things. There's a lot of other minorities around the country that are actually getting things done. Absolutely. And are worthy of your capital. to me is the message that we're really trying to convey.
Not only worthy, not even worth. It's even more than worthy. We are oftentimes better suited because we are able to see opportunities and look at things from a different perspective that other firms are not able to do. So it's so I'd argue that we're not only worthy, but it's very well might perform better and provide you access to opportunities you otherwise would not see.
Well, that goes twofold. You have the situation with the urban core, and a lot of times minorities understand the urban core a whole lot better. From that perspective. And, to your point, there was a research data, I've attended quite a few of the New York State pension meetings. And one of the things that came out there was that actually the minorities were outperforming the traditional firms.
Exactly.
Right? But historically, it's like, this is a big Wall Street firm. Let's just give them our money because that looks good to shareholders. So if they lose money, it's like, well, we gave it to so-and-so, them. So don't put the pressure on us. But in reality, the minorities were outperforming, the larger firms.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this. And Harold and I are working on a deal now. This is our life. This matters. Yeah. My wife is waking up in the morning asking, "How's that deal going?" Because this matters, and so that level of alignment of interest is important. Yeah. And it's something that can't afford to have. If a deal goes bad, not only is it a financially major setback, but it also we know we are from a reputation and track record standpoint, we can't afford to have too many misses and still be around. So this is every deal is mission critical for us and code red, and we just have to throw our lives into it, and that again that level of focus and. I can't speak to all firms, bigger firms, but that's the way we approach things, and I would argue that that's why. We're going to extract as much value out of a deal as possible just because it's that important.
Yeah. No, that's a very valid point. We can't turn around next year and just raise another $1 billion.
Right, exactly.
And lost $500 million last year. I mean, we don't have that luxury, right?
Exactly.
So, very, very powerful point. Yeah. So as we're kind of getting close to wrapping up here, what would you say to we both got kids around the same age, that are kind of getting started in their life careers. What would you say to them if they wanted to pursue a career in commercial real estate? Not necessarily your family per se, but just young ones in general. What would give them the leg up so that they don't have to wait so much later in life to really have this all figured out?
So I'm a big fan of trying to get institutional experience, learning the business on someone else's dime in a format where you have the ability to get exposure to a lot of transactions as fast as you can, a lot of markets as fast as you can. So again, fortunately, because of everything, we have this whole social reawakening the country is going through post George Floyd. I don't know how long it'll last. I'm happy it's here for now. Yeah. I would encourage people to take advantage of all the firms who are out there trying to diversify their employee base. And so, I've had a number of, smaller private equity firms who had, never thought about, hey, we just looked at our website. We don't have any people of color on here. Can you help us? And so, I had a firm last week who I'd coffee with a guy at a private equity firm out of Greenwich, Connecticut. And he said, I've just been assigned with trying to figure out how to recruit at Morehouse. Can you help me out? I called down there and they seemed like they were too busy because, but yes, they're getting a lot of calls. So I would, take advantage of this opportunity. There's some great programs. Artemis, firm out of Washington, D.C., they have a program. I think you have to be either sophomore or junior in college, and they do a great job of giving people a leg up. A bunch of firms now, all the investment banks. So I would just say try to get institutional experience, one that provides you with like I said, gets exposure to a lot of deals and a lot of markets and a lot of opportunities. It also expands your network because the people you'll be working with are going to end up at some point going off to other firms, and that will increase your industry network. And then finally you get a name on your resume that will give you some credibility that will open up future doors down the road. So if that doesn't work for everyone in terms of being able to go and say I'm going to spend a summer working at JP Morgan in the real estate group, but to the extent you can get any experience any way with a larger firm that can give you exposure and some credibility. That's what I tell people because the whole the .com world has, a lot of people thinking, hey, I can come out of college and, start a business and become a billionaire. That works in some cases, but that's harder in the real estate business, just because you do need experience, you do need a track record, and you do need you just need to know stuff, and the way you learn stuff is through experience. So there's very, very hard to paint everything with a single brush, but that's just my view, that it's, experience matters and exposure matters. And, the best way to do that is through connecting with, tying into some larger firms.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. One thing we discussed on last week's call is the idea of really creating like this scorecard, if you will. There's a lot of firms that are pledging contribution, dollars for minority firms. But a lot of them, it's you'll hear these big numbers, but how much money is actually deployed? Right. It kind of reminds me of the Haiti situation. There was so much money pledged, and how much of that money actually got to Haiti, right? So, what we're looking at doing is putting together kind of a scorecard, just a report card as to, okay, these are the firms that pledged so much, how much of that money actually went out the door. I'd be very, very interested in that. And I have, friends and colleagues and business with friends who have been charged with trying to put these dollars out, but they still have, these parameters that, for a variety of reasons, a lot of minority firms just can't meet. So their hands are tied. They're trying to figure this out. So it's, they've got to get creative. They have to think out of the box. They have to figure out ways to be committed and make this happen. And they, the best way is just to tie people's bonuses to, getting the dollars done, out. Right, exactly. So that's what gets people. That's a good way to do it.
That's what gets people's attention in finance. So it's, it's interesting, but I think there are also, ways to partner with other firms, with other, so not the institutional investors, but just, smaller, majority-owned sponsors and developers. And, they're also realizing that they're going to be, people are going to start, their institutional investors are going to start asking them about, what are they doing as it relates to diversification. So if they could say, hey, I'm partnering with, with this firm over here on this project, that, that will just help them. So they're, firms like that haven't figured that out. Minority developers can sort of bring that to their attention. And then, so that could be an additional way of getting some access to deals and exposure and just additional experience. So I think, regardless of all this capital that now seems to be available, we still have to be scrappy and, aggressive in trying to figure out how to position ourselves that way. So recently a large bank put out had a program that put out, I think it was $200 million with minority developers, and they had 70 firms, I believe, minority firms apply for these dollars. So there are firms out there. So it is not that, when people say, oh, we can't find the firms, they are out there. So people have to look and figure out ways to expand their, where they're looking for, for minority firms to put capital with, because we're definitely out here and we exist, and a lot of very, very, very talented people with access to deals that, again, people otherwise wouldn't see.
No, very, very good point. So we may call on you to kind of help us as we put this together, because any input you could provide, I think will be really valuable. So certainly appreciate that. And Kwame, is there anything else you wanted to add before we kind of sign off for the day? Okay, you're good. Fantastic. All right. Well, we certainly appreciate that. Dennis, I'm kind of jealous because I can't wait to get back to the beach. So,
so this is my fake background. This is my fake background here. But yes, I do have some palm trees swaying in the background right now. So I have probably a half day of work today, and I'm going to hopefully enjoy my family and some sand. So. Cool. Fantastic. Thank you for having me. Wonderful, connecting again. And Kwame, very nice meeting you. And, happy to, chat with anyone else if they want to follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have one last question before you get off the line here. How you doing with that CCIM?
No, I'm looking forward to adding some additional CCIMs to my team. And I am a big supporter. I think it's an amazing designation, and I'm looking forward to adding some additional CCIMs to my team.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good way of doing it.
There it is.
We had that conversation, and I was like, "Damn, what's taking him so long?" But hey, I get it. Life gets in the way, so it's kind of crazy.
Life gets in the way. We kept it moving, but
like you said, add him to the team, right?
There it is. Absolutely.
Oh man, it's all good.
That is great.
So I appreciate it. So, well, thanks so much. As I mentioned, this is Mornings with Joel, the CRE podcast. We're very grateful we have Dennis Pemberton today, and took out a little time to be with us and take time away from the sand and the sun and the beach and all that good stuff to kind of share some wisdom with us today. So, Dennis, we greatly appreciate it. Glad to have you, and look forward to catching up as we go forward, man. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Fantastic. See you guys later. You've been listening to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. Please check back weekly to hear our upcoming guests.